Perfect. Thank you very much for joining me. Yes, my name is Sean, and you are watching MLS Ireland Does Predictions for Week 6. Hey, we're getting into it. Let's go. Perfect. Thank you very much for joining me. Yes, this is MLS Ireland Does Predictions. If you're new to this, hit that subscribe button. I think I've lost it for you anyway. Probably after not a great week, to be fair, last week. But anyway, this has been a strange week, to be fair. It's all over the place. So you can't really have a go with me. You know, when you think about it, LAFC beating Orlando 4-2 away from home. New England getting beaten by New York Red Bulls away from home. DC United probably getting beat. Oh, well, to be fair, I got the Philadelphia Charlotte one correct. I would have thought Portland would have done a better job against the LA Galaxy. I thought Inter Miami would have done a better job against Houston. There was a lot of away wins, and there was one home win, three home wins. 3 home wins out of 13 or 14 games. So that's alarming. But anyway, this is my predictions, and I don't want to bore you too much with all my crying, basically. So I might as well crack on and get into this and get it over and done with, basically, for your sake. Rather, I think you want to be listening to this to me. So I might as well kick on with the first one, which is Orlando against Chicago. Now, Orlando are kind of interesting this season. I would have suspected them to start doing very well. They started off the season quite well, but they kind of, they beat Montreal, and then they kind of got away from home. They got beaten by Montreal. They drew with Chicago Fire, got beaten at home against Cincinnati, won away against LA Galaxy, drew away against Portland, and lost again at home. So there are 2 home games this season so far. They've lost. Basically 2-1 and then 2-4. So by the power of deduction, this next game's it's going to be 3-6 or so. But anyway, against the Chicago Fire team, who are probably not going to say a punching above their weight, they've won 2 games, 2 considerably good games. They drew with Dallas. They haven't lost a game in this season so far. They've only conceded to 1, which is pretty impressive. But Orlando are a good scoring team. Their defensive is not great. As again, Chicago Fire is probably not that great either. Their offensive powers have only scored 5 goals in 5 games, so it's not that great. So I'm going to go for like a 1-1 draw. I do think these 2 teams are very good. So it's going to be a tricky one. Orlando haven't won a game at home yet, so I'm going to go with the draw. The next one is Inter against New England Revolution. Now, when the first time I've seen this, I was all Inter bottom of the league. Okay, this is going to be an easy one for New England. You would have suspected them to win. New England's 24th, so that's not great. They've only won the 1 game, and that was against Dallas. They got beaten by New York Red Bulls. They got beaten by Charlotte away from home. So this is going to be another away game, and they're coming up against an Inter Miami team who are just dreadful at the moment. But I know New England are probably going to start getting into things a wee bit more. Their last game against New York Red Bulls was a kind of a fluke. It was like an own goal, as I say. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to New England, just for the fact that they are a better team. They're better coached. They've kind of gotten away now from the Champions League of it now. So I think they're going to completely focus on the league, and they probably should beat Inter. And the next one is New York Red Bulls against Montreal. Saying that, now New York Red Bulls are an interesting team so far. They've done very well at the start of the season, and then they kind of got beaten by Minnesota at home, and then they drew against Columbus Crew at home, and then they beat New England, as I said, 1-0. But that was like an own goal. But now they're coming up against the Montreal team, who are 25th. They've only finally won their first game last week, and that was against Cincinnati. Okay, it's not a great game to be winning, to be fair, but still Cincinnati. It's a away win, so this is going to be another away game. They've only played 1 home game, but I think New York Red Bulls probably should win this one. I went for a 2-0 win, just for the fact is they're scoring goals. Montreal have, scored 9 but conceded 14, so they are scoring goals as well, but they're just probably letting in that too many, whereas New York Red Bull have conceded 4 and scored 9, so I'm going to go for 2-0 on that one. The next one is the league leaders, Philadelphia against Columbus Crew, who are ninth, and they lost their first game last week against Nashville, which was not too bad. Nashville are a surprising team, but Philadelphia, who are they're second, but they're joint first with points. You know what I mean? They're going to be going into this game quite convinced, quite comfortably, and quite, basically happy. So against a Columbus Crew team, I did predict 2-1 to Philadelphia, a 2-1 win to Philadelphia, just for the fact is they're actually scoring quite a few goals and they're not conceding that many. They've only conceded the 2, scored 9, and most of the last 3 games were 2-0. 2-0 against Charlotte, 2-0 against New York City FC in New York, and then they beat San Jose 2-0. So there's I'm going to go for like a 2-1 win. I think Columbus Crew have a goal in them, so I'm going to go for that one. The next is the El Tráfico, LA game, the LA Derby, I call it. A lot of people call it, to be fair. LAFC, who are technically top of the Supporters' Shield, they only drew the one game this season. That was at home against Portland, and now they're home against LA Galaxy, who at home is kind of mixed. Their first game of the season was at home. That was a 1-0 against New York City FC, and then their last home game was against Orlando, and they lost 1-0. And now they're coming up against the LA Galaxy team, who beat Orlando 4-2 away from home. So this is probably going to be a comfortable. I'm going to go for like a 1-0 win to LAFC. They're just a better team, I think. LA Galaxy are starting to play very well. They played very well against Portland. Although Portland are not playing all that great at the moment. So it's going to be a good game. I'm going to go for like a 1-0 win. And it's going to be on a good time here. So excellent. And the next one is Real Salt Lake against Toronto. Now, Toronto started off the season quite badly, drew with Dallas, and then got beaten by New York Red Bulls at home 4-1, which isn't great. Then they got beaten by Columbus Crew, but then they beat DC United at home and New York City FC 2-1 each, basically 2-1, 2-1. They're coming up against a Real Salt Lake team who are at home, who are surprisingly not bad at the moment. They got beaten by Sporting Kansas City by Johnny Russell, basically scoring a cracking goal. That was away from home. Their home record against Seattle and Nashville are pretty impressive. So I'm going to probably carry on that tradition. I'm going to go for, I did technically have 1-1, but I'm going to go for like a 2-1 win to Real Salt Lake. Just for the fact is they're a good team. They're at home. I know Toronto are coming back into it. It could possibly be 1-0, but I'm going to go for like a 2-1 win to Real Salt Lake, just for the fact is they're at home. And the next one is FC. I know when I basically said that at home, I just remembered there was only 2 or 3 home wins last week, so anything can happen. So I'm going to go for an FC Dallas against Colorado Rapids. FC Dallas are actually not doing too bad. They're actually surprising a couple of teams. They beaten Nashville and Portland, beat Portland quite convincingly, but they got beaten by New England and drew against Chicago Fire and Toronto. They're coming up against the Colorado Rapids team, who are just below them. Same points, same goals scored, but Colorado Rapids has actually conceded a lot more. But saying that, I think Colorado Rapids, they probably have a bit more experience in it, which is going to be a good, interesting one for this one. I went for Colorado Rapids to win, actually, this one. 2-1 win to Colorado. I just think FC Dallas, they haven't really beaten anybody quite convincingly. They drew against Chicago Fire, which isn't all that great, but I know Chicago Fire are like 6th and they haven't lost a game. But, so Colorado got beaten by LAFC at the start of the season, so they're not that bad. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. The next one is Houston against San Jose Earthquakes. Now, Houston are doing 12th, so they're not too bad. They've only lost 1, conceded 4, and actually scored 6, which is pretty impressive. They're coming up against the San Jose team, who are just basically being kept up by Inter Miami. They've drew 2, which wasn't too bad. Those draws were at home, so And their away games were the last 2 away games. They didn't score at all against Philadelphia and Minnesota. So they're coming up against the Houston Dynamo team, who, like I said, haven't really conceded that many. Only 4. So I'm going to go with a Houston 2-0 win at home. Again, like I said, San Jose haven't really scored a goal. They're kind of missing Wojnarowski basically up front. So I think this is going to be a tough season for them. So, going to go for 2-0. The next one is Sporting Kansas City. Sporting Kansas City against Nashville. Now, Nashville are not doing great this season. They've only won 2, and granted, they are playing away from home quite a lot this time, because until the 1st of May, I think, they play Philadelphia at home. I would have loved to be over at that if anybody's watching this. Free tickets over. Anyway, I guess the Sporting Kansas City team, who are 21st at the moment, they're not doing all that great. When you think about it, this is a team you would have suspected to do quite well. Their home games they've won. They beat Real Salt Lake and Houston Dynamo 1-0. But their last 4 away games they've lost. And it's not like they've got beaten by brilliant teams. They got beat by Vancouver, Chicago Fire, Colorado Rapids and Atlanta. So it's not all that great, but their home record is pretty good, and I'm going to continue that. I'm going to go for a 1-0 win to Sporting Kansas City. Again, they're just at home. They're a very good team at home. They haven't lost. They haven't conceded at home. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 win on that one. And Nashville are kind of at that stage. I think it's going to catch up to them. You can't keep playing away a lot. The next one is Vancouver against Portland Timbers. This is Vancouver at home. They've only played 2 games. Like I said, they beaten Sporting Kansas City. That was at home, and then they drew against New York City FC. And that was a 0-0. They've scored 3, conceded 9, which isn't great, and they're coming up against a Portland team who are all over the shop. They haven't really convinced me as of much this season, so I'm going to go for a Vancouver win. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Vancouver. Portland Timbers haven't convinced me of much, and Vancouver, although they beat Sporting Kansas City last week 1-0, I think they're probably going to carry on that momentum and get another. They're going to outscore basically Portland 2-1. Anyway, the next one is Charlotte against Atlanta. Now, Charlotte won their last 2 home games against New England, Cincinnati. New England, well, the 2 teams are kind of below them, so not bad. And then they got beaten by Philadelphia away from home. But this is going to be another home game. It's kind of going to be like a derby because they are close to each other, I believe, as my geography would tell me. It's going to be an interesting one. Atlanta, who are starting to pick up, but I think they've lost Joseph Martinez to an injury, so this is going to be an interesting one to see who actually starts for them. But I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Atlanta, just for the fact is they are a better team. I know at home Charlotte should probably get a good result out of this one, but I think Atlanta are probably a wee bit too powerful for them. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. And now the last one is Austin against Minnesota. Austin started off the season with 2 5-0 scoring goal games. And then they got beaten by Portland, drew against Seattle, and drew, which is not a great result, against San Jose Earthquakes. Now they're coming up at home again against Minnesota. They're doing very well at home against the Minnesota team, who are 13th. They got beaten by Seattle last week at home, and their last away game was New York Red Bulls, and they actually won 1-0. But I don't see Minnesota probably getting a good result in this one. I think Austin at home have a good wee fan base behind them. They do play very well at home, so I'm going to go for a 2-0 win to Austin in this one, and probably get a good result and get a kind of move up the table. So it's nice to see them. Nice to see them moving up. So yep, those were my predictions. Hope you enjoyed them. Let me know what you think, and if you are going to any games and all that kind of crack, it'd be cool. So let me know, and I'll chat to you next week. Bye now.